All right, guys. So, filming a video, trying to do this quickly. Hopefully it does not affect the quality of the video. So what are we going to talk about today? This is the KnifeCenter.com exclusive Civivi Incite with the shredded carbon fiber, clear resin, and gold leaf with the Damascus blade. So this is one of the fanciest budget knives I've ever seen. So let's go ahead, and before we get too much into it, if you're watching on headphones, turn down the volume because here comes some music. This is the Civivi Incite, which is, this version of it is striking, and it is a great knife, but I've seen the other versions of it, and the reason I'm only going to talk about this version is it's just kind of plain. And in the other versions, you can definitely see that it is it's a budget knife. But I'm going to tell you, for a budget knife, it's still pretty great. Civivi does good work. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to turn this around, get some weights, we'll get some specs, we'll get some good shots of this because this is really, really attractive, guys. And it's really, really comfortable. So we'll go ahead, man, that is sharp. We'll go ahead and I will meet you down at the Chris Reeves microfiber towel that I haven't put down yet because I'm doing this on the fly. All right, guys, let's go ahead and bring this in. First of all, before we get into anything, take a real close look at that. That is gorgeous. That is shredded carbon fiber in a clear resin with gold leaf. It looks like what I picture inside the strata of a rock with gold all in it if you were a miner. Looks like coal and gold in a mine. Anyway, so that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at this. So what are we looking at? We are looking at a beautiful Damascus blade. This is a stainless steel Damascus. We'll talk about that material in a minute. I always like to point out the differences between this and what I consider pattern welded. So this is a Civivi knife. It's called the Incite. It is 3.7 inch blade length with a 4.76 closed length, inches, 4.76 inches. Overall length is 8.46 inches. And this, I have a knife that I'm going to use as a comparison here that I don't put out as often because it's really similar in size. So like I said, this is a monolithic Damascus, which we'll talk about in a second. Like I said, this is a shredded carbon fiber with gold leaf in clear resin handle. Is a liner lock, runs on bearings, and it has a skeletonized deep carry pocket clip that I am actually going to say I'm not too bad. It's not too bad. I don't dislike this pocket clip too much. And so this is, oh, I forgot blade thickness. Blade thickness on this is 0.118 inches. So now that we got the specs out of the way, let's go ahead and get some weight. So I actually raised it up a little bit because it was too close, guys. My guilty pleasure. I love Turkish Delights. That is my favorite gummy candy in the world. So let's go ahead and get some weight on this so then we can get into the actually looking at how an attractive knife is. Okay, so in ounces, they have it listed on the website as 4.37 ounces. So this is 4 3/8. In grams, they have it listed as 124 grams. And I mean, pretty close, spot on there. So let's go ahead and move this out of the way and we'll take a good close look. Now, let's get back to the important matters at hand. Let's take a good close look at this. This knife is beautiful. It really is. This is not Damasteel. It is very similar. There's a couple companies now that are making the monolithic layered powdered metallurgy Damascus. Civivi is using one. Artisan actually has one. We Knife Company's making some in it. And I've seen these, and they're attractive, and they are very, very similar to Damasteel in the fact that they are not a pattern welded Damascus. This is all one continuous piece of steel. The way it's done is it is powdered steel that is deposited in layers that gets you a pattern, very attractive, but you do not have the inclusions and separation that you would get in what would be a forge welded or pattern welded Damascus. It is one constant piece of steel that is of the same hardness, very, very similar materials in this that are powdered. One just happens to have enough carbon that you can etch it a little more readily than the other, and you can bring the pattern out. But this is, I know a lot of people like, oh, hand hammered Damascus, that's the way to go. I personally do not agree. I think that there is too many chances of a flaw in the steel, in heat treat, in a weld not taking, and then you have different types of materials that are not of the same hardness. It really happens when you're sharpening and using a knife in, say, an Alabama hand forged weld Damascus. This is far superior. And so it's called a monolithic steel. But what you get is you get the same look, but without the drawbacks of a true Damascus. Or not a true Damascus. This would be actually closer to a true Damascus than a pattern welded or forge welded Damascus. Action on this knife is great. The flipper tab, the jimping on it is a little aggressive, but not to the point where it's uncomfortable. It flips really well. It snaps open with authority. It is so light. And I'm not gonna lie to you, these powdered metallurgy Damascus, they take such a very, very, very sharp edge. This is still the factory edge. This is incredibly sharp. I would definitely not complain about that edge. You can see, like right there, let me show you. It's catching my calluses and cutting just at the slightest touch, just not even really putting any pressure. It's just touching it. It's just cutting my calluses. And the other thing, this is ground so super thin. I really like these knives that they've started coming out with that are the thinner blade stock with the thinner behind the edge. I do have some beefier, don't get me wrong, I have some beefier, bulkier knives that I do still carry, but the thinner knives for most EDC day-to-day tasks around the house, a thinner blade with a thinner grind is just going to scream through anything you're cutting. Packages, paper, tape, anything. I have yet to find anything that this knife does not cut well. This, like I said, this is basically a stainless steel Damascus. So I've used this a few times. It's the same type of steel that would be in my Lackey, my Ferrum Forge Lackey. And it hasn't tarnished, it hasn't taken any fingerprints. Nothing I've cut has discolored it. So I believe this might be a 9CR based version of the Damascus like that. But let's take a good look at that. So this knife carries really well, carries well in pocket. The pocket clip, typically I'm not a fan of these deep carry pocket clips, but what they've done is this has a long enough throw that when it sits in my hand, this isn't digging in, and this knife is large enough that the area that would be problematic for me when I'm using the knife is pretty much out of my hand. This is a 4-finger plus some grip. Now, the forward choil is simply just a sharpening choil. It is not big enough, like I can get about maybe 3/4 of my finger in that choil. But this knife is really comfortable in this grip to hold. And if you need to do fine detail work, you can get up like this and it's not that big a deal. So just the attractiveness of this. Black backspacer with a lanyard, pocket clip, liner lock, runs on bearings. Just a great, great knife. Now, I'm going to do a couple of comparisons because this is a rather large knife. I have some knives that we usually use for comparison, and we're gonna add an extra in this. This came in, I sent a knife off to Nick Shabazz. Nick Shabazz sent this back to me to go to Ferrum Forge. So you guys know it's the Prolix. So let's look at it compared to the Prolix. Prolix, not a real big knife. So in comparison, fairly large. Here is a much better comparison, much more similar in size. My Reat Horizon D, as a matter of fact, when you get rid of the issue with the you know, one being in front, one being behind. If you get them side by side, these knives are just about the same. They're real similar in size. Handle shape's real similar. Real comfortable. Still, my number one production knife I've ever owned is my React Horizon D. I use it as a benchmark to compare all other production knives. I would honestly say, it's hard to say that it beats out my Sebenza, but it definitely, as you can see, Sebenza, there's a good benchmark. Everybody knows a Sebenza 21. I'd have to say that not necessarily it beats my Sebenza, but it definitely comes up there, and it has things that the Sebenza just doesn't offer. It's still a great knife. One of my favorite knives of all time. So let's go ahead and we'll take one more good flyby look at this real slow. Look at those handles. I just can't imagine what polishing those were like. It gives you a depth. There's a depth to that clear carbon fiber the clear resin, and then the carbon fiber not being packed in it so tightly, and you can see down into it. It gives it a depth that just, you can't really pick it up on camera, but in person, it's striking. I saw this and I told Matt, I have to do a video about this knife. And now I've had it for so long, I've got to get it back to him. So let's turn this around and get some final thoughts, and I will give you some prices. I only got one price because this knife is a Knife Center exclusive. So let's go ahead. So I had one more knife I was going to use as a comparison because they're a little more similar in size, not necessarily in design, but it is my Ergonomics Wayfarer. And so you can see, if you've got one of these, you can see they are almost, this is maybe a half an inch longer. So another knife that I love that's great. So this Civivi Incite, this version of it is just, well, it's great. It really is great. I love it. It's gorgeous. It's attractive. I didn't see many problems with it. It's really hard to find a problem, especially at the budget price, because these knives, even for as straight, now I want you to take into consideration, this is a high-end handle material that's polished. That's a higher end blade material that is done beautifully, and the pattern on it is tight, clean, neat, not over the top and gaudy. These are on Knife Center right now for pre-order. I think they're trying to get some more made for $99. And if I remember right, this was a Knife Center exclusive, so I only got the one price, but MSRP on this was $117. Guys, that's not that expensive. You're looking at a very high-end presenting knife. This knife presents itself as a high-end knife at a price that is right now just right about $100. So Civivi and we have always made good stuff. You guys know I love Civivi enough that this knife that I designed, I had done by We Knife Company. And Civivi, in case you don't know, just in case this hasn't made it to you before that, Civivi is the budget line for We Knife Company is now making knives as Civivi under a budget brand. I do believe that they have changed a couple things in their naming and things like that. I'm really not 100% on it, but I do know that there's been some changes, and so there's probably some changes to the name. But this is a great knife for the price. Like, you're getting a lot of bells and whistles for, you know, for something that typically is a plain Jane price. So guys, I apologize. Tuesday there was no video that went up. You're watching this on Thursday. We are in escrow and things like that. So it's hard to have time to shoot videos. I have some stuff that I want to shoot. I really am hoping if we can get this new rental property, there's a fourth bedroom that I'm going to turn into just an all-inclusive YouTube studio and work area. My workbench would be inside, and that way there's inclement weather and things like that. I don't have to worry about canopies blowing away and maintaining the cost of things outside in the weather, and things won't get stolen. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I'm gonna do a couple more live feeds. I did some live feeds today. They didn't work out right. The system kept kicking me off. So that's something that happens from time to time where the live feeds just don't work out. So I'm trying to present trying to present you guys with some alternatives if I have not recorded and edited a video, but it just didn't seem to work out today. So guys, if you liked videos, give them a thumbs up. If you don't like them, give them a thumbs down, but tell me why. If you really liked the videos, there is an applause button down below where you can donate money directly to the channel. I think you can just pick like a donation. It's like super chat on live feeds, only it's done on a pre-recorded video. There is also a join tab if you really want to support the channel. I am doing exclusive videos for the top tier members where I'm doing a sharpening tutorial. I've shot 3 so far. I have a 4th that I'm working on, which is going to be grit progression. We've already done some basics of sharpening, what is sharp, and then we did like maintenance of stones, picking your stones. I did a reprofile video on how to reprofile a knife angle, and now I'm going to go into the next step, which is logical grit progressions, and then from there we're going to go into some like specialized sharpenings and things like that. So guys, I love you all, take it easy, and I will see you in the next video.